Hey everybody, welcome to your Taurus horoscopes for the week of September 3rd to September 9th, the first full week of September. And the good news is Venus's retrograde ends right at the beginning of the week, actually on Sunday, sometime during the day, not in the morning Pacific time, more like in the afternoon, evening Pacific time. Add your time to that. Obviously, those of you that are down under, you're going to add a day to that too, because there is such a slight time difference between the two. Slight time difference. The not so great news is we have the moon. We're going to just kick off the week with the moon in Taurus, which tends to emotionally complicate things every single time. Although, in my experience, being an Aquarian, not really want to stop and deal with emotions right now kind of person, the moon isn't always an emotional experience. Sometimes magical, wonderful things happen during the moon days of the month, so to speak, when the moon is in your sign. So that definitely is a possibility. And it's looking like it is going to interact in ways that could be a little bit magical and not quite so challenging, which is really, really nice also. First of all, yes, we still have Uranus in retrograde in your sign. We continue to have Jupiter in your sign, and Jupiter goes retrograde actually this week. It's really funny, actually. Right as Venus is moving direct, Jupiter is moving into retrograde. So that was literally almost all of the planets, with the exception of Mars, which already went retrograde. Literally almost all of the planets, except for Mars, retrograde at the same time because of the way they sort of passed each other in their retrograde motion. It's kind of interesting, sort of how that works. Now, Jupiter is all about growth and expansion. So when we retrograde that energy, it's going to feel like you're not growing and you're not expanding. In fact, in some cases, it does feel like you just keep putting all of your energy into something that's not going anywhere, and that can be really frustrating. And there is of course a lesson in that. There's always a lesson in that. Whereas Uranus's retrograde energy is a little bit easier, I think, for you Tauruses to deal with, being a fixed sign. Fixed signs don't really care for crazy, out of the box, rebellious kind of ideas. They like to try and stick to things that they know have worked in the past. So that kind of energy is influencing everything that you're doing right now, which is really, really good. We're looking at Uranus and Jupiter and the moon at the beginning of the week, for the first couple of days of the week, actually moving into a trine with the sun and Mercury. Now, Mercury is still retrograde, so we have about another week after this week of the Mercury. Well, about actually half a week. It's the 15th. So I do believe that that's not quite half. Okay. It's almost the whole week. Do one more week of the Mercury retrograde. But with the planets in your sign lining up favorably with the Mercury retrograde, that also means that it's highly possible that it can work in your favor as well. With all of these planets focused on relationships, with Jupiter and the moon on Monday really bringing that cusp of your day-to-day schedule into it as well. All of these planets in a trine with the sun and Mercury, which are focused on career. Now, two things. One, I think a retrograde Mercury in a planet like Virgo, which I'm not saying that all Virgos are narcissists, but the sign itself does represent sort of narcissistic tendencies. And so it's sort of saying, when you're selling yourself for a job or you're selling yourself for a new position, the less you say about yourself, the better. And what I mean is, get straight to the point with, this is what I can do, without necessarily embellishing and adding all the details. I really should be listening to this myself, even though I'm not a Taurus. Because I do have, in case you haven't noticed, I do have a tendency to do that. Just a little tiny bit. Now, Uranus continues this grand sextile with Pluto and Saturn, Pluto and Neptune as well. Again, all planets are retrograde. So we're easing that energy back and in some ways reflecting it back at ourselves. That's what retrograde do. They're a mirror in front of us that is not pointing out the flaws of everybody around us, but making sure we're aware of the flaw of our own flaws in the meantime, because that's really important. Okay. It's very frustrating and no one wants to harp on their bad qualities, but at the same time, you got to be aware of them because there's no way to work through them without being aware of them, you know? Um, Neptune's focus is right on the cusp of the home and those you love. So we're talking about the people that are really, really in your inner circle. Chances are they live in your home, but we're talking about your children, your immediate family there. And Pluto, which continues to be focused on the mind and how the mind works. What's interesting to me about this is that when we're talking about relationships and we're specifically talking about our inner circle, these are always the people that we love the most. And these are also the people that get on our nerves the most. So this sort of interesting lineup is coming up and saying, you know what, it's okay that they get on your nerves because trust me, you get on their nerves, okay? It's okay that they get on your nerves. That is part of the beautiful process of love, is that it's not sparkly and pink and roses and fairies all the time. It's also the difficult stuff. And I feel like this week, that sort of not overly difficult stuff, but the little challenges won't seem quite so bad because you're actually looking at what you have in front of you, which is worth way more than any of that little BS that you had to go through. So things are looking up, guys. That's the whole point. Things are looking up for you, which I'm really excited about. So that's what I have for you guys this week. If you love your horoscopes, do click the link in the description and send me a copy. I would really appreciate that. If you are listening, that's ko-fi/heavy metal psychic. I would definitely appreciate a copy from you guys too. I'm Melissa Bruce, the heavy metal psychic. Go check out my website. You can book right there on the website. It's super simple. And I am doing a Labor Day weekend special. So if you're watching this the day it comes out, you still have one more day to get that special. So go on in there and check that out. I'm Melissa Bruce, the Heavy Metal Psychic. Thank you for watching, and I will see you guys next week. You guys are powerful gods and goddesses, and you will make it a great week. I know you will. I will see you next week, everybody.